I'm Matt with etrailer, and today we're talking about the Yakima Roof Rack on top of our 2024 Jeep Compass. Now this is going to be a great option for you if you're running out of space in the back of your vehicle and you need to store that extra gear you have somewhere. Your roof's going to be a great option, especially if you're looking at something that can come on and off of your roof pretty easy, and you want to haul those longer items like kayaks or skis. But let's check it out. You probably noticed we do have quite a bit of overhang. That's because we have the 60-inch crossbars on today. And that's because we were planning on maybe carrying some kayaks or skis. But if you find yourself not really carrying items that long, or you don't need to tie off to anything, or you just don't need this much overhang to put on your clamp accessories, then I'd recommend going with the 50-inch version. They're going to be exactly the same as these, just a little bit shorter than what we have right now. We're going to have that 60-inch crossbar up top, that's what I talked about. We're going to have the towers, and then we're going to have the fit kit. So taking a closer look at that crossbar, we're also going to have this arrow shape to it. That's going to help reduce wind noise and make it more aerodynamic. And we're going to have this T-channel at the very top. What I like about this is we have this weather strip, so that's going to prevent a lot of wind from going in there, creating more noise, and it's going to prevent a lot of debris from getting in here. What that is designed for is if you have any T-channel accessories, they'll just go into this top section. Maybe you're not a big fan of clamp-on accessories, that's going to be a good reason to use that, or you don't have the clearance to put on your clamp-on accessories. And on the bottom of it, we're going to have this other channel, and typically that will have a weather strip on it. We just don't have it on here since we use this for demonstration purposes a lot. But that's where your tower is going to connect to. And what I really like about this tower is two things. One, we're going to have this plastic lock core at the very back of it. You can actually get that changed out with the metal lock core on our website. You can find that option, but you can get that key to like with any of your other Yakima gear. And if I open up this door, it's going to reveal all the hardware in here. But if I lift up, it pops right out of place. And that's what's going to make this really easy to take on and off and just leave the fit kit below. Speaking of that fit kit, we're going to have this rubber backing to it so it doesn't scratch anything up on your roof. And this is going to use a fixed mounting system. And how that works is there's going to be two bolts on the back of it that are going to bolt into two pre-existing holes we have on our flush rails. Here's a closer look at how that does mount up here. Now you can mount the rear crossbar in two different locations. We opted for this location that's a little bit closer to us because it's going to use more of a common crossbar spread, so we can use it with more gear. But if you're not hauling a lot of different types of gear, just really long ones, then this back section right here is going to do you just fine. You're going to have the option to use either one. Talking about that crossbar spread, we can get a quick measurement of that to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So if we go from the front of our front crossbar and the front of our rear crossbar, that's going to be 26.5 inches. So that's a pretty in the middle number. It's going to work with a lot of different types of gear, whether you have those longer items like kayaks or you have some shorter roof boxes too. As for the overall height, if I go from the top of our roof to the top of the crossbar, it's going to be a little bit over 5.5 inches. So that sits up pretty high, but that's because this system is designed to be taken on and off. What I'd recommend doing is just taking the total height of your vehicle, your roof rack, and if you have any gear on top of that, just so you know what areas you can make under, like anything like a garage. And for the space underneath, we're going to have a decent amount because it is sitting up pretty high. That's going to be about 4.5 inches. So you're going to have plenty of space to put on your clamp-on accessories, even if they are really bulky. What I would keep an eye on, though, is if you have a sunroof on the front, and if it does extend up by a few inches, you have a really bulky clamp-on accessory, then they might make contact, but that's going to be some pretty rare occasions. Like I said earlier, we are going to have a lot of crossbar overhang. They give you the exact number on the back. It's going to be a little bit more than the front, That's going to be about 11.5 inches. So it is ideal for those kayaks that do have to have that overhang. Now just make sure when you're getting inside your vehicle, you just watch your head so you don't bump it. Really, I don't see anyone really hitting their head on this too often, but if you are pretty tall, definitely keep an eye on that. Now, if you do opt for the 50-inch version, that's going to save you about 5 inches. So that's only going to stick out about 6 inches. So that's going to be about how far it sticks out. Still going to give you a decent amount of overhang. There's going to be some more bulky items that have some maybe more bulky clamps that might not fit that though. And we're going to have a weight capacity of up to 165 pounds. What I recommend is just checking what your roof is rated for so you don't overload it. You can actually find that in your owner's manual. And then from that point, just find what's going to be the lowest rated component and then go from there. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a great option for anyone who is trying to haul those longer items like those kayaks or skis because we're going to have plenty of overhang. If you go with the smaller option, it's still going to be pretty good for skis, though kayaks might be a little bit more difficult, but that's just something that's going to depend on whatever gear you have. As far as how it installs, it's pretty straightforward. I did have some issues with the clamps or the fit kits and how they bolt into place, but if you want to see how I solved that, just stay tuned and I'll walk you through the process. To start off the installation, we're going to lay everything out. So closest to me, we're going to have the crossbar, and further in front of me, we're going to have the towers, and we're going to have the adapters for the towers. We're going to have the fit kit, the rubber adapters for that as well, and the hardware. You're going to have a couple included tools. They're both going to be Allen keys, and I recommend grabbing a tape measure to make this a lot easier. I like to start with our fit kit because that's going to be the first thing that attaches to your roof. So I'm going to grab that rubber adapter. It's going to have these 4 prongs, and those are going to go in these 4 holes. So I'm going to line everything up and push it into place. It can be kind of hard to see because everything's black and there's a lot of shadows in here. But after when I've lined everything up, I'm just going to apply some pressure and push it on all the way. So what will happen a lot of times is we still got a lot of space. You can see that moving. The reason why is because those prongs on the outside or the nibs on the outside are going to be hollow. So they can bend up and not go into that hole all the way. So what I like to do is just grab a pretty thin tool, whatever you have on hand, and I'm just going to apply pressure on the inside and push down. That's going to allow that to fully go into that hole and sit more flush. Once you got this completed, then you can repeat that process for the rest of your fit kits. We can get ready to go on our roof. What we're going to want to grab are going to be these fit kits, the bolts that come with them, and the washers. And this included an Allen key with a security key on the very end of it. And then once we get up there, we can attach this to our flush rails. Something else you can grab is a trim tool, because that's going to make removing these fasteners on your flush rails a lot easier. If you don't have a trim tool, a flathead screwdriver works just as well. But the process for that is just going to be applying pressure underneath and then pushing out. You'll hear it pop right out of place. You can store this somewhere else so you don't lose it. Just make sure you do both of them and make sure you remove the correct fasteners. The ones on the front are going to be pretty easy to find, but on the back half, you'll notice we have 2 different sets. So depending on your needs, that's going to be the choice you make. We're going to line up our fit kit. You're going to have 3 holes on it. You're going to have this longer one and these 2 smaller ones. We want to make sure that this longer hole is facing forward if you're on the rear side. If you're on the front side, we want to make sure that longer hole is facing behind us. But once we've figured that out, we're just going to push this bolt through and try to grab on to that hole underneath there. Once we've done that, we're just going to hand thread this into place. Might be hard to see since my hand's all in the way. But once I have it in place, I can start on the second one. If you are having issues with trying to get this threaded into place, because I do have that issues and I've installed a bunch of these, what you can do is just take a break from that one. Just grab your second bolt and move over to the second hole. So, sometimes just lining it up can be kind of difficult. And once you get that second one lined up and threaded into place, it makes threading in the first one a lot easier. If you still have issues just trying to get both these bolts threaded in, what's probably happening is that rubber adapter we have on the back of it is applying too much pressure, which is putting this at an angle. So what I like to do is put a little bit of pressure at the very top and push it angled down slightly and then try to thread it in again. That's what I had to do on both of these sides. And then once you feel it start catching in and going through, then you can grab your security Allen key and thread it in the rest of the way. You just tighten this down until it feels pretty tight. And give it a good shake test. Make sure it feels pretty bolted in there. And if it does, then you repeat that process on the other side. We're going to come back to the table. And what we're going to do now is grab our towers. And we want to get this ready to be put on to the crossbar. But it won't be able to fit on there just yet. We need to put these adapters in place. So you're going to grab that plastic adapter. And you're going to have the side with the ridges. That's going to face down. So I'm going to flip that around. Orient it in this direction. And I like to put mine in at an angle. And then push down until it clicks into place. Next up, you'll notice we have this bolt popping through in the center. What we want to do is line up this metal block with it. So you're going to push this down into that channel. And it should grab on. If you're having issues with that, I'm going to apply pressure to this and flip it around. And I'm going to grab the other end of that bolt and kind of just try to shift it around until it grabs onto that block. Once it's grabbed on, I can start tightening this just slightly. We don't want to fully tighten this down yet because we need a bit of a gap in between that block and that plastic adapter. Once we've done that, we can start putting it onto our crossbar. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to bring this over here until I'm over at that end cap. I'm going to lift up on this tab and push out. Once I got both of my towers ready, you can actually put them both on from the same side. The first one, I like to put it in the opposite direction. So we want this side with the door facing to our right, or not towards the center of the crossbar. And you're just going to fit that on into place and push it on to the other side. Sometimes it can get kind of caught, so you might just have to wiggle a bit. And then for the next one, we're going to grab that. And if you're not too sure how you put this on, you're going to have this middle block at the bottom. And that's going to slide into this opening or this channel right there. And it's going to face the opposite direction of the first tower. And we're going to push this on just a little bit and just roughly place it where we need it to be. And at this stage, I like to place our end cap back on to our crossbar. Now with both towers on, they're just roughly in place. They don't need to be perfectly measured out quite yet because we still need to put it on top of our roof and we might need to make some adjustments. So what I like to do at this stage is come over to our towers. I'm going to slightly tighten this down a bit. I don't want to tighten this down completely because, like I said, we still want to make some adjustments, but I don't want this sliding all over the place too. So looks like this might be tightened a little bit too much. I can pull it forward, but I can't push it back any, so just loosen it up a bit until I can adjust it. Right there. Just make sure you do that for both sides. With both of the towers prepped, we're going to put this on top of our roof. Before I do that, I want to make sure it's in the right orientation. So this thicker side, I want that to be facing forward, and then the thinner side, I want that to be facing behind me. After when I've established that, I want to make sure these doors to your towers are open, because that's going to retract the tabs underneath the towers. So, just going to lift up on here and push it into place. I like to line up the one on the opposite side of where I am first, and then set the other side down. As you can see, this isn't perfectly lined up quite yet, so I'm just going to go over to the other side, shut this door so it doesn't move, and then come back over here, do the same thing, and then adjust from there. The way I'm going to adjust this is just by grabbing our tower, lifting up on it a bit, so it's flush when it's pushing through and not at an angle, because it's going to get jammed up. And how you adjust is just by pushing on it. Now pulling on it can be a little bit difficult because it can get caught on the other side, just like that. So if you do need to pull on it, just go to the other side of your vehicle and push. But at this point, I like to measure both sides just to make sure I'm getting the same overhang. And if it is a little bit off, you can do what I just said, either push or pull it to make sure everything's even. Once this is where you want it to sit, we can open up both doors, and we're going to take this off just so we can tighten this down completely from underneath like we were messing around with earlier. But what I like to do is tighten this bolt back here too. Because what this is going to do is close a plate. We don't want to do it all the way, but it's going to give us a little bit more tension, and it's going to keep this in the same position when we take it off of our roof. Like I said, we don't want to tighten that all the way because that's going to close that plate underneath it here. The last step is just giving it a good shake test, making sure it feels pretty good, and if it does, you can load it up with whatever gear you have and hit the road. But that was just a look at the Yakima Roof Rack on top of our 2024 Jeep Compass. Thanks for watching.